Hi everyone, this is Ben from Benbo Bets, and today I want to go over using our ROI sheet. So we have a Google Sheet that has every pick that we've made and calculates the overall ROI for every pick. So I want to go over that, how I use it, and how you can use it. Let me start by saying I'm in New York City and they're doing some construction on the apartment above mine. So you may hear some random noises in addition to random sounds from outside the window, typical that you hear in the city. Okay, let's start. Let's start first of all with the sheet. And you see here at the bottom, I have a bunch of different tabs that I've created. But let's start with overall ROI. So this is from day one. This project started on February 6th, 2021. And I'm recording this on August 9th, Monday, August 9th. So 6 months in. First thing to note is that we have a header row, and I always just double check to make sure that that row is frozen. So now as we scroll up and down, that row remains. And let's go through the items here. Day, so this is day one, day two, day three, and I use a color coding of 3 different colors. So day one is one color, day two is a second color, day three is a third color, and then it reverts back to the day one color, just to kind of give a quick visual. Also, I shifted colors when we shifted models from the WoW model to the dev model, but the same thing remains, 3 different colors, each color indicating a different day. Okay, so that's the day column pick. This is self-explanatory. First pick, we're up to 283 picks. The date and the league initially. So just for those who don't know, quick background, I started this project myself on February 6th and initially just offered spread picks for the NBA. And I created a model based on a book called Wages of Wins, written by Professor David Barry, and on his work, on Professor Barry's work. And then in May, I partnered with 2 incredibly smart, capable people from the worlds of big data and DFS. And in early June, we started running a new model, which we call the dev model. So you'll hear me kind of bounce back and forth. Sometimes I may say I, sometimes we. Usually if I say I'm talking about when I alone was doing this project. And when I say we or our, then I'm talking about when I partnered with these 2 incredibly capable people. And now we are equal members, equal partners in the project. Okay, so date, league, type of bet, sportsbook. Initially, I got the odds from VegasInsider.com, which just does an aggregate of all the different sports books. The model, as I've explained, I put the starting bankroll at $1,000. Bet percentage, this is the amount of the bankroll that I recommended people should bet on any given play. These amounts are way too high. That's the biggest lesson I've learned in doing this, in reading and watching interviews with professional sports handicappers and sports bettors. Professionals rarely, if ever, go above 1% for their recommended betting amount. So that's the biggest lesson learned. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So what that betting percentage translates into a number amount. And then here are the picks. The team that I'm picking to win, their opponent, what the odds are, what the line is, and the result. Again, these are all spread bets early on, so this is the line for the spread bet. And then the profit and loss from each of those plays and what the ending bankroll works out, cumulative profit and loss, and ROI. And notes are just basically when I've changed the recommended betting amounts. As I said, our current recommended betting amount is 1%, so a huge difference from what it was early on. Okay, that's the header row. Now, let me point out these tabs below. So, for example, we had 7 plays for the Olympic Games, men's and women's basketball. And the Olympic model is different from the dev model or the WoW model. Olympic model is much more back of the envelope math because the sample size leading into the quarterfinals was so small, only 3 games. And then here, for example, if you just wanted to see how the dev model is done. Here are the dev model plays. Still need to do this for the WoW plays. And I've broken it down by month and then the past 30 days, the past 7 days, and the past 1 day. So something I want to point out with the 30 days, this doesn't mean the past month. It means the past 30 days of plays. So for example, especially once the NBA season finished, this was the last date of an NBA game, Game 6 of the NBA Finals, and the WNBA was on hiatus for the Olympics. You'll see, for example, we had a bunch of plays on July 11th, then went 3 days until the next NBA game on July 14th, July 17th, July 20th, August 3rd, etc. So 30-day ROI means the past 30 days of picks, not just a 1 month period. So for example, this past 30 days started on June 12th and completed on August 6th. Our next, as I said, I'm recording this August 9th. Our next day of picks will probably be Sunday, August 15th, when the WNBA resumes. Okay, now let's go back to overall ROI, and I want to show you how I use this and how you can use it. So first things first, go up here and make a copy. Now, as the creator of this sheet, I can make a copy. I'm not 100% sure as a viewer if you can make a copy. If you can't make a copy, then all you need to do is just go to the sheet and download it as an Excel file. And then you can either open it in Excel, open it in Numbers, or re-upload it to your own Google account and open it as a Google Sheet in your account and do all the things that I'm about to show you. So again, if you can make a copy, otherwise you can just download it as an Excel sheet and open it in whatever app you want. Okay, so let me go to my copy of Benbo Bets. And actually, just to be on the safe side, I usually do this. I go to overall ROI and I duplicate this particular tab. So this is the tab I'm going to mess around with. Okay. And let me make sure that that row is frozen. Freeze one row. Okay. So now I want to mess around with the betting percentage and see how that affects ROI. As I said, so our ROI, if you tailed from day one at the recommended betting amounts, the ROI after 6 months is insane. The ROI is 229% in 6 months. Now, that's crazy, and it's a combination of a bunch of things, primarily the initial recommended betting amounts being so high, and I started on a 19-2 streak. Absolutely incredible winning streak. So after 21 plays, 19-2, look at that, ROI was 360%. Okay, that's insane after 8 days. But that's a combination of the betting amounts, recommended betting amounts being so high, and this incredible hot start. One thing I've learned from interviews with sports bettors and sports handicappers, professionals, is the only thing you can count on is a long losing streak. So this hot start combined with these high amounts created a huge cushion in terms of ROI. And then you'll see after that hot start, it much more comes down to earth in terms of wins and losses. So what I want to do is normalize this betting amount to 1%, which is what we recommend now. I think that's a much more realistic approximation of what potentially we can expect going forward. This number is insane, and frankly, I think you should disregard it, even though it's based first on my picks and then on our picks. It's in no way realistic. So the number is accurate. If you tailed the picks from day one at the recommended betting amounts, that's what you get. But I think it isn't in any way realistic of what I've learned and what we've learned and what's going to happen going forward. So let's delete, do Command Shift down arrow. Let's delete all the betting percentages. Of course, that reduces ROI to 0, right? And now let's do everything. I want to try a couple of different amounts. Let's do everything at 5%. Again, we recommend 1% now, but let's just to demonstrate. Let's just do 5%, okay? 5% ROI gets you 84.5%. I mean, 5% betting amount gets you 84.5%. Okay, now let's do 2%. And that gets you 45%. So you might think, remember at 5%, it was at 84. You might kind of think if you reduce the betting percentage, say by half, that this ROI would be reduced by half, but that's not how it works. Actually, let me show you exactly. So instead of doing 2, let me do 2.5%. So 5% was 5% was 84% ROI. 2.5% is 55%. Now half of 84 would be 42%. So there's not a one-to-one correlation between the betting percentage and the ROI. And that has to do with the amount of losses or gains you take on a particular day. When the betting percentage was at 20 and 10%, there were these huge swings. And combined with this hot start, there was a huge sort of upward curve. But that's also exposing a huge amount of your bankroll each day. So lower betting amount means much less exposure. The most plays we've offered on any given day are 13. So 13 plays, let's say at 5% betting percentage, that's 65% of your bankroll is exposed. At 10%, it's beyond 100% of your bankroll. So now let's do 1%. Okay. So 1% would expose 13% of your bankroll. But after 6 months, you have a nice, tidy 23.2% ROI. That's pretty great. That's not even pretty great. That's phenomenal. In 6 months, to have a 23.2% ROI on anything is phenomenal. To have a 23.2% ROI on only 13% exposure is even more phenomenal. Okay. So now I'm going to show you, so I've been messing around with this betting percentage column a lot, trying to identify, in addition to what I've learned from professional sports bettors, trying to identify what the ideal, what our recommended betting amount should be. Okay. Now let's do something even, let's change this even more. So I said I started 19 and 2, right? After 21 picks, 19 and 2. So I'm going to delete this, which is then going to null and void some of these columns. And I'm going to show you how to fill those back in so that everything else will autofill. All these columns right now are autofill columns. So if you look up here, you see it's autofilled from here. These columns are autofilled. These columns are autofilled. Everything's autofilled. So you can break the autofill, excuse me, you can break the autofill by messing with this first column, but then I'm going to show you how to reset it. And you can change this amount to anything you want. Okay, so let's delete the hot start. Okay, the first 21 picks. I'm going to delete. And again, this is just a copy, and it's a copy here, so I'm not changing anything on the main sheet. Okay, so let's delete this. Delete those rows. Okay, so now it broke the pick numbers. So that was after. So that was. This is pick number 22. You don't even really have to worry about the pick number. That's just for me. But it's broken the starting bankroll, the profit loss, the ending bankroll, the betting amount, etc. Everything's at 1% right now. Okay, so let's put the starting bankroll back to 1,000. Okay, so that autofills a couple things. And then to calculate this, what we do is ending bankroll equals starting bankroll H2 plus profit or loss for that play, which is Q2. Okay, so now that fills in everything here. And then to calculate the ROI, just double check the formula we use. Yep, it's right here. S2 divided by H $2. So I'm just going to copy that and fill that in right here. Okay, and then let's let's just delete all of the, oh, did it do it automatically? Well, that's interesting. This didn't autofill, but from here, oh, because I just used a different calculation, which is um, the cumulative profit or loss minus 1,000. If our starting bankroll is 1,000. But we might mess around with this starting bankroll. So let's actually just do everything um, based on this formula here. Okay, so now everything is at 1% bets, and instead of starting 19 and 2, now you see from day 9 from pick 22 how that adjusts the profit, the loss, and the bankroll. So now you see here we go negative very early on. In fact, from the second pick, from the first day, it's negative 1.1%, goes down to negative 7.5%, maybe even lower. No, that looks like the lowest. Okay, but then it turns positive, and at the end of 6 months, see here is great, and then we went on I think in the finals, in the finals we went 0 and 6. So it's currently at 5.9%. So 6% ROI after 6 months, but only on 13% exposure and removing the 19 and 2 hot start. Okay, that's still pretty great. If we just double that, say over a year, that would be 12%, basically 12% ROI on nothing more than 13% exposure. And of course, that's removing the 19 and 2 hot start. So that's just one example of how you can play around with this and sort of sort things for yourself. Again, I've been messing around with betting amounts a lot just to see what that does. Let's just do 2% and see what that does. So 2%, it was 5.9% at 1%, 2% is only 8%. See, so I know it's counterintuitive, but if you double the betting percentage, it doesn't double the ROI. And in fact, it can get quite dangerous. So what if we do 10%, right? Now you think the ROI is going to be huge, right? Nope, it's negative 74%. So that means 74% of your bankroll is gone. So that's why we've continually adjusted the betting percentage lower. Limit exposure, limit loss, right? First rule of making money in an endeavor is don't lose money. First rule of making money in sports betting, don't lose money in sports betting. So let's normalize this again to 1%. And that's a pretty good indication of where I think we'll be going forward. Now, it's not really fair to remove the 19 and 2 hot start because each of these picks, each of these events is its own discrete event. It's not influenced in the real world by any other game or pick. So that 19 and 2 hot start is legit. I think for about the first 2 or 3 weeks, posted all my picks publicly on Reddit, probably for the first 2 weeks, and then moved to the newsletter, and then the newsletter went paid on March 12th. Okay, so that's just an example of how I use this sheet and how you can use this sheet to sort of look at a bunch of different things. Something else you could do, you could sort this by the type of bet and see what the record is just for NBA spread bets, or you could sort it by league and bet. I'll just show you how to do that. Again, let me make sure the row is frozen. So what you could do is you could sort this, just sort it A to Z, and now you have the NBA, and then after that there should be some Olympic plays, Olympic men's basketball, Olympics women's basketball, then the WNBA. And then from there, you could sort by the type of bet. So now it's going to give you all the NBA money line plays, the Olympic men's basketball money line plays, the WNBA money line plays. And from there, if you wanted, again, you can sort of autofill these values and I mean, you can fill in the first day of values and it should autofill from there. And you can work out the ROI, say, for NBA moneyline bets. Now, just a note with the um, with like say moneyline, these autofill categories um, probably won't work correctly because these autofill categories are set from the overall sheet. So, for example, it autofills with R13, right? So the starting bankroll on day 5 should autofill with the ending bankroll, which is R13, cell R13 from day 4. So when you sort it by, say, money line, it kind of breaks all of that. So you have to go back, see here it's like equals R3 because that means on that day it should have been equal to R3. Point is, it's going to break all of that. So you may have to go in and fill that stuff in. But it's a pretty powerful tool for looking at this project and helps me understand what's working well, what needs improvement. The biggest thing, and I recorded a podcast last week, just a project, it's called Project Recap, or Will This Project Work, I think is the title of the post. And the biggest thing the most illuminating thing that I discovered was, as I said, so this is the original sheet. And it went public, I mean, not public, but the newsletter went paid on March 12th. And so I worked out at the recommended betting amounts from March 12th what the ROI would be, and it works out to negative 30%. So that obviously is a huge area of concern, and it kind of explains why the number of paid subscribers has remained static since the start of the project. Again, or not again, but I have a significant amount of optimism based on what we've done by normalizing all the picks at 1% and seeing what that does. And of course the results. So just to go over the record real quick, and again, you can sort by wins and losses and figure out the record overall or for each of the individual picks. But right now, as of August 9th, for moneyline picks, we're 15-17. Of course, moneyline picks or underdog picks have a significant ROI. In fact, I worked it out. I think the ROI at 1% for moneyline picks, something like 17%. Over-under picks are 7 and 6. That's 54%. Parlays are 0 and 2, 0%. And then spread picks, the vast majority of picks were spread picks. We're 129 and 105 with 2 pushes. So that's 55%. Break even against Vegas, 52.4%, so 55%. Again, as I've learned from professional sports bettors, 55% make a lot of money at 55%. Initially, when I started just by myself, I was thinking I should hit 60% or higher, that would be elite. But again, from what I've learned, hitting 55% is more than good enough and more than enough to make a bunch of money. Of course, you got to keep those betting percentages low so that you don't risk so much of the bankroll. So that's just a few, these are just a few examples of how I use this sheet and how you can use this sheet simply by either making a copy or downloading it and sorting it, filtering it, changing values, however you like. Thanks for watching.